This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow. You guys know the drill. My name is Truck. I'm joined, as always, by Culls and Shane O'Mac. And today we are talking free agency reactions. It's been a crazy week in the NFL. Probably the most exciting time of the year for me, getting to find out where all these pieces land and the outcome and the aftermath. So, Shane, Culls, how you doing, guys?
I'm good. I just thought whenever you say my name is Truck to do the truck sound, the
Get a little sound effect. Yeah.
Add that in the intro, spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all good. It's been a pretty wild week with free agency, super fun. So time to kind of break it all down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Shane, how you doing?
Doing good. Fun for fantasy, not so fun for myself as Cowboys fan. But,
yeah, Cowboys been pretty quiet, haven't they?
Oh yeah,
certain running backs are too expensive. They don't want to give them a shot. Who was that? Who were they going to sign? They're like, no, we're okay. That's too much.
Oh, Zack Moss. Zack Moss at $4.5 million is too much.
Yeah,
God,
that's
God
that's
forbid.
brutal.
Yeah, God forbid $4.5 million, Zack Moss.
Yeah. All right. Well, where do you guys want to start? Let's kick it off. We got a lot of names to talk about, a lot of teams to talk about. Let's get right into it.
Well, there was another signing that made you upset. Remember who was it when I said the amount of money and you
Willie Gay, 1 year, $5 million.
It might have even been $4 million. Yeah, $4 or $5 million. Willie Gay. Shane O'Mac got very upset. He was like, I really wish you didn't tell me that.
Oh god.
So it's been fun for the Bears and Truck. We'll get into that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we should just start by breaking down quarterbacks, go straight positional all the way down.
Yeah, I like it.
Starting with the big dog Kirk Cousins to Falcons, 4 years, $150 million. Big contract. He's made, I think, the second most amount of money in NFL history.
Yeah.
So good for Kirko.
Kirko chains. Did you guys see him with him and his kids rocking the Falcons chains and stuff? That was funny.
No, it's awesome. Yeah, I think it's a bump for everyone involved there, the entire offense. So huge for London and Pitts. And then, of course, Bijan should benefit from just having a better offense and getting, a better role without Arthur Smith there. So it'll be an exciting year for the Falcons. I think they're number one in the division right now, team to beat.
Absolutely. I think the odds changed drastically once Kirk Cousins got signed. So yeah, I love the signing. I think this is a very exciting time for Falcons fans, and I can't wait to see what they're actually capable of doing this year. So Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, people forget, like, before he got hurt, Kirk Cousins led the league in touchdown passes. So and yeah, it's a little bit of a downgrade from receiving corps, but not that much of one, where I think Cousins is still a low-end QB1 on your teams this year if you wait on the position. I'm not concerned about his Achilles injury coming back. He looks pretty good already. Yeah,
I'm in the same boat. Who do we got next?
Russell Wilson, Steeler.
Oh, Big Russ, Mr. Unlimited. So I called this one. I had it in our free agency predictions episode. I said Russ was going to the Steelers. It made sense to me. And now he's there on the league minimums, like $1.21 million. I personally don't think this is much of a competition. I think Russ, this is going to be his job. Obviously, with Mike Tomlin being who he is, he's going to have to earn it in the offseason, but I don't think it'll be very difficult for him. I think he's a better quarterback than Pickett, and this is his team moving forward. So, Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, I think two things can be true. I think, one, it may be an open competition because of the money. But two, I don't see any way that Kenny Pickett beats out Russell Wilson this summer. So he's going to be the starter to start the year. But I don't think he's anything more than a low-end starter in super flex or 2 QB leagues, and not even a great one as much as they're going to run. They lost Deontay Johnson, so it's a very limited fantasy pick.
Yeah. Coles, what do you got?
Yeah, I think Freiermuth and Pickens have a bump with Deontay getting moved. Russell had a good year last year, so, if he earns that starting job, it should be pretty good for the Steelers offense and put them in position to make a playoff run.
Absolutely. Who do we got next?
Mr. Mustache, Gardner Minshew.
Mr. Minshew Mania going to the Raiders. Yeah, man. I don't know. Let's kick it over to Shane. Shane, what do you got for Minshew on the Raiders, man? What's going on there?
So I was a little surprised at the money. 2 years, $25 million. It's a pretty decent investment, for sure. My big takeaway of this, it made me raise up in my rankings Devontae Adams, 3 or 4 spots from where I had him prior, just because we saw Minshew make Michael Pittman a viable fantasy starter. Adams can run a lot of that same routes that Pittman does. He doesn't need a ton of downfield. In PPR leagues, he can be a lot of short area targets like Pittman was that have value. So my main takeaway, I bumped Adams up about 4 or 5 spots.
Yeah, that's fair. Coles, what do you got?
I think it's fine. I don't know that he's going to be the starting quarterback this year or for the next 2 years. So I don't know. I don't think this deal really says anything to me about the Raiders and their quarterback situation in the future. It's probably not going to be Aiden O'Connell, and it's not going to be Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, so you're saying that they probably will draft a quarterback this year, so at some point?
Maybe, or next year.
Okay.
Just punt this year and get a Shedeur or something like that. I don't know. It's similar to who we're talking about next, Darnold. I don't think Darnold will be the starting quarterback for the Vikings this year. If Minshew is the starting quarterback for the Raiders, then I think they're probably just punting to next year because he's not a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a very mediocre signing, along with Darnold. Gardner Minshew was a Pro Bowl quarterback last year. You guys remember that? He made the Pro Bowl. So
that doesn't mean anything.
I find that funny that
Gino, didn't Gino too? And he
was it Huntley 2 years ago, right?
No, Gino, I literally think was doing Pro Bowl competitions this year, and he didn't even start most of the year and had a horrible year.
Was he at the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, he was in some bullshit quarterback competition. I was like,
all right, so officially we're gonna put this to bed. The Pro Bowl means absolutely nothing, whether you make it or not.
It hasn't meant anything for the longest time besides some dodgeball highlights.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Yeah, very true. Dodgeball is the marquee event over and that says something, right?
Okay.
That's brutal. Why don't they do a race? Why is there not the fastest man in the league race, 100-yard dash? Something that really bothers me that there's a dunk competition in the NBA. There should be a race in the NFL program. Whatever.
They should just scrap the entire thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Either way, so Sam Darnold, very similar to what we're talking about with Minshew. It's just a mediocre signing. Doesn't mean that he's going to be a day one starter. Maybe just a bridge quarterback. Will the Vikings trade up? Who knows? I have a buddy of mine who seems to think so. They're going to go after a top 3 pick. So. It's just kind of mediocre at best.
Yeah, I think after they've traded to get the extra first round pick now, I think they are going up into that top 5 position to get one of those guys.
Yeah.
Either way, whether if it's a Drake May or whoever, or if it's Sam Darnold, I'm not ticking down Justin Jefferson very much in my rankings.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think like 1 is going to be Caleb, 2 is going to be Jaden Daniels, 3, the Patriots either go Marvin Harrison Jr. or trade back to Vikings like you're talking about, or Giants if they're in love with a guy like May at 3. 4 will be Marvin Harrison if said team trades up and gets quarterback. Otherwise, the Cardinals might be trading back to one of those teams for a JJ McCarthy or one of these other quarterbacks. So I think it's McCarthy. I can't imagine anyone trading up into the top 5 for Penix. So, it'll be those 4 that go likely in the top 4 picks or top 6 picks. And then, Titans, Falcons, Bears, we'll see, like best available at that point. So, I don't know. I'd say just to summarize the quarterbacks, like Wilson should be a good fit for the Steelers. I know Truck tried bullying me in our predictions episode to joining him on the Russell to the Steelers train. I'm sure we talked off air and was like, yeah, that's the most no-brainer spot for him. Because I remember when you were introducing that, you're like, and Coles, you got Wilson to the Steelers too, right?
Yeah, I thought you would have something similar because it just made sense to me.
Yeah. So that was you were trying to bully me there. You were right. Think he's going to be good for the Steelers. I think that's, it'll be interesting. Every team in that division is probably going to be projected at like 9 wins or more, 8.5 to 9 wins or more. Like they're all into a position to have a really good year. Falcons ran away with the South, signing Kirk Cousins. It looks like the Bucks are going to be running back that same roster almost. So yeah, those are the 2 biggest moves, and then the rest is just kind of placeholders to see what plays out. I know Drew Lock signed with the Giants. We didn't speak about that, but it looks like be in competition for the quarterback job. To me, those are all the kind of the same signings.
Yeah, there's a few signings that we're not going to mention. They're backup quarterbacks at best. So.
Well, to me, that's what Darnold is. And then even Minshew. I mean, the money says it was a little bit more, but they had the money to spend and like whatever. So let's move on to the Saqoun Barkley to the Eagles. This is certainly the big move here, the biggest move here of the entire free agency. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I love this from fantasy's perspective. He, as another guy, I probably ticked him up higher than anybody else in my rankings. Squarely now in my top 5 running backs. I think he's at 3, maybe, I can't remember, but he went up about 7 spots. There'll be people shouting about, he's going to lose goal line opportunities. I don't know if that's truly the case. 50% of the tush push is gone with Kelsey retiring. So we may see less of that. And it may not be as automatic as it has been last year. Eagles running backs have averaged 14 rushing touchdowns since Hurts has been the quarterback. So there is opportunity there for him to, I think he's at 10, 11 rushing touchdowns and 4 receiving touchdowns. So,
yeah, I love the signing. I think Saquon has a legitimate chance to dethrone Christian McCaffrey this next year as the RB1. It's a great landing spot for Saquon. He's got 2 stud receivers. Last time Saquon has had receivers like of this caliber, it was his rookie year and one of his best statistical years. So I think there's no ceiling for Saquon this year. I will probably still have him behind Christian McCaffrey in my rankings, but I think he's firmly planted in the number 2 spot. So, Coles, what do you got?
Nothing really to add. I love Saquon. I think kind of like how McCaffrey to the 49ers was the best fit for him personally. I think that's what you're seeing here with Saquon. So, yeah, I would probably have him as my RB1. So I think it's going to be a huge signing for the Eagles and Saquon as well.
All right, who do we got next?
Josh Jacobs to the Packers.
This was a stunner for me. I did not see it coming. I love the move for Josh Jacobs to go to the Packers. The Packers are an ascending team, a young team, and you get a stud like Josh Jacobs. I think they upgraded the position. I do think Aaron Jones is a really good running back, and he'll be good on where he goes. I'm sure we'll talk about him next. But, yeah, I love Josh Jacobs on the Packers. I think this really, creates some great competition here in the NFC North with my Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I think the thing with Jacobs is like he saw the most stacked boxes last year, so he's not going to have that here in Green Bay. People forget in 2 years ago he had over 2,000 yards. He had a little bit of a down year last year because there was no offense, there's no quarterback, there was nothing there. It was all stacked against him. I think he stays on the field more percentage-wise than Aaron Jones did last year. So I think you're looking at a much higher percentage of him being on the field than Jones was last year with Dillon. I think Dillon kind of falls back into a very supplemental role. They ended up re-signing him, but for like $1 million. So I don't think you see a similar type shared workload that you saw with Dillon and Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that was because of injury. Jones had a nagging injury all year long. Otherwise, I think it would have been different. He was outstanding when healthy. So I think it's a good pickup for the Vikings there. Jacobs is a solid professional. I mean, not much to hate there. He's stepping into an offense that just outperformed expectations, young offense that's looking to grow. So his best situation, and it's going to be quickly a three-headed monster in the North with Lions, Bears, and Packers. But Vikings sign Aaron Jones quickly after he was released, 1 year, $7 million. Yeah, he's a great addition to any offense. So, as we saw last year, could be a pretty good presence to have in the huddle for a first-year quarterback, which you would expect the Vikings are going to draft someone. And whether they start right away or not, he's going to be a very big asset to that offense and kind of probably something to just make Justin Jefferson feel like they're not just completely rebuilding and jumping ship. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is the best running back they've had since Dalvin Cook in his prime. So I think this bodes really well for the offense as a whole. They're going to be able to move the ball better than originally with Ty Chandler. But I do think we still see a lot of Ty Chandler. I don't think this is just going to be solely Aaron Jones. He is getting older. He dealt with injuries last year, so I don't think they're going to be giving him the ball as much as we would hope. But, I think he's going to make a huge impact on this offense. Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, you said it. What the only thing I was going to say is like he's just not in the position in his career where he's talented, but you can't give him the 20 to 25 touches every game. The talent is there. If you want him to last the whole year, keep him maybe around that 15, 17 touch mark, working Chandler. And, you can save him for those high value touches around the goal line. Because I think there was this misconception that he's not a great goal line runner because they would bring Dillon in sometimes, but he actually had a pretty good conversion rate. So he can be used down in there. As long as they can serve him, he should be fine this year, fantasy wise. Yeah.
All right. Who do we got next?
Joe Mixon to the Texans.
I love this. I am going to be in on Joe Mixon this year. I would imagine I'm going to have him on a lot of my teams. We'll see where he falls in drafts, and I haven't really finalized my rankings yet after this free agency fiasco. So I do love the Joe Mixon. I think they upgraded the position. This kind of really makes this offense a whole unit with Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz. If I wasn't a Bears fan, I would be a Houston Texans fan, and I love the signing.
Still might be.
We'll see. We have yet to. The NFL draft is yet to happen, so there's a.
And you don't have a team. You could have a team in both conferences.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one would shame you for that.
Absolutely. Shane, what do you think here?
I think he could be very similar to what he was last year in Cincinnati. Look, a lot of the explosiveness is gone with him. I mean, let's be honest. There's not a lot of big play potential he offers, but he offers a ton of value in PPR leagues. He can rack up a lot of 2 or 3 yard catches. And then Houston is going to provide plenty of scoring opportunities when they get down the goal line. So I think he could easily have the same year he did last year, which a lot of people don't think was that great, but he ended up, double-digit touchdowns. I think it was 12 or 13 total touchdowns.
Yeah, I think the biggest winner here is Joe Mixon. From his dynasty value. Like I was surprised on that 3-year, $24 million. Was it similar to Swift? Yeah. 3-year, $24 million deal for Mixon, lock him into that young offense for, a few years, I think is really big for him. And I would be interested what he looks like in 3 years, to be honest. I don't know. I think it's a good signing for the Texans. I don't know if it's like a game changer at all, or if he's really even better, can perform better than Singletary did. Just because Singletary was pretty awesome last year, but that shows you what the opportunity is for Mixon. So I don't know. I think he's a pretty good running back. He's always seemed to like exceed expectations. So I probably have lower expectations for him than a lot of people, but he may exceed those again in an offense where he'll certainly have the opportunity. So yeah, I think that was a really good signing for him, more so than the Texans.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry to the Ravens.
This is another one we called on the free agency predictions episode. Coles, you mentioned it. How sick is it going to look for Derrick Henry to be in that all black with that visor? I just think this is just a perfect fit if we're talking about scheme and everything. Derrick Henry really provides a lot for this offense. Short yardage play at the goal line. I mean, they're going to be running him early and often. I'm going to be all over Derrick Henry this year in drafts as well as Joe Mixon. So I love this signing. I can't speak highly enough. I think he could break the record this year for most touchdowns by a running back. So early hot take there.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how early he goes in drafts. I'll probably be staying away from him if it's really early and there's a lot of hype built up around the season. There's a lot of miles on him. So what was did they just sign him for 1 year?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Was it 1 or 2 years, Shane?
I feel it was 2 years.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years as well. So 2 years. Yeah, I mean, I think he could definitely get 20 touchdowns that Truck mentioned. Do I want him on my fantasy team? Drafting him in the first 3 rounds, where he'll probably be touchdown dependent, but he'll probably get 2 or 3 touchdowns some games. So I don't know. I'm staying away from him probably from a fantasy standpoint. I think it's a great football decision and football move for him, both the team and him, but I don't know how. I'm just not going to be the one holding the bag on Derrick Henry when his touches go down significantly, and he may just be more of they're going to feed him the ball. The Ravens love to run the ball in the red zone. It's just how many times can he run the ball 25 times a game? I don't think they're going to need him to do that, so he just won't. But it'll be interesting to see how they use him.
Yeah.
So Gus Edwards had 13 touchdowns last year for the Ravens. So that is the floor in my mind for Derrick Henry. I think what happens is beginning of the season, maybe those first 4 games, you're going to see him get a pretty decent workload because Keaton Mitchell is coming off that late season ACL injury. And they're kind of conserving him. And then as you get to middle to late, you see maybe Mitchell start to be worked in a little bit more to take some of that burden off him. which helps Henry kind of maybe
coast throughout the season. Yeah.
Get better throughout the year. I think he's probably, I was projecting like a Joe Mixon, maybe like a round 4 selection. So I put Henry at round 3.
Yeah. If he's in round 3, I'm taking him all day. I'll just put it there, you know?
Yeah. I definitely won't be, because of what Shane said. Like, there'll be a point in the season where they just go into cruise control and save all of his big time usage games for late in the season playoffs. Again, great football signing, fantasy wise. I'm probably just gonna leave that alone and find better value in the 3rd round.
All right, who do we got next?
Let's do our first rendition of Fantasy Confessions.
Shame.
Big confession to me.
Shame.
Forgive me, fantasy gods, for I have sinned. It's been 10 long months since last offseason when DeAndre Swift joined the Eagles. And I had a take that Rashad Penny was the better running back. I even went as far as putting DeAndre Swift on my do not draft list. I am here to repent my sins. For DeAndre Swift is now a Chicago Bear, and he is my running back. DeAndre Swift, I am sorry. And Godspeed. I think you're going to do well.
All right. Well, you're not done repenting. Shane and I have to offer you a repentance for your sins.
Yeah. Okay.
In order to be, fully forgiven. So I think that Shane and I have come to the conclusion that you need to tweet at DeAndre Swift and ask for forgiveness. Tell him, welcome him as a Chicago Bear, and offer him the top 5 beefs that he can get in Chicago. He is a Philly guy. He appreciates a steak, a Philly cheesesteak. So I would think a beef would be more up his alley than a hot dog. So top five beef spots. Say, DeAndre Swift, welcome to the city. I'm very excited. Give him some hype, and then here are the top 5 beef spots for you to try. So once we see that on Twitter, I think that'll be a good addition to, I'm sure you'll cut up a short of our first fantasy confessional, and you can add in the screen grab of your tweet as your penance, and you will be forgiven.
Okay, fair enough. But in all seriousness, this is a great move for Chicago. Like we upgraded the position. DeAndre Swift was great last year. I was completely wrong in my original take in the offseason, as I just confessed. And he was very impressive. So I'm excited to see him as a Chicago Bear. I think this really helps the running game. And, I would have liked a bigger splash move at running back, like a Saquon or Josh Jacobs. But, as a Bears fan, you can't get your hopes up too much. But I'm totally happy with DeAndre Swift. I think it's a great move.
Yeah, I do as well. I love Swift. There's not a ton of miles there. He has a very diverse skill set, pass catching back. So I think he's going to be awesome for the Bears. 3 years, $24 million. He's 25 years old. So you'll have him at the prime, his physical prime, in an offense that now has a lot of weapons. So it's an awesome signing for the Bears. Bear down.
Yeah, I think the best thing for the Bears is, like, unlike last year with Swift in there, it's not tilting one way or the other. They're going to throw, they're going to run. When they would bring in Roschon Johnson, sometimes what that tilted more towards. I think he's going to be a great pick for people that go like 3 wide receivers first, or they want to go quarterback early or tight end early. He makes for a perfect later RB1 on your team. I'm just curious of the Bears, if they end up keeping Herbert on the roster, or if sometime he gets dropped.
Yeah, he'll be cut. You think he's going to be that late? Like what, a 5th round pick?
I think he's going to be
4 or 5-ish. Yeah, is what I right now projecting him as. So
I would say like I would say at least like the furthest he'll drop is to where like Aaron Jones was getting drafted last year, which was that like 4th round.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Shane's talking about. We grabbed Aaron Jones as our RB1 a ton when we were going heavy wide receiver early, so it's kind of right in that range for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets steamed up a little bit more. I mean, I'm looking at these backs now, and he's definitely in that range, but like Fantasy Pros rankings, these are dynasty rankings. I was going to say they have Devon A-Chain at 8. Like, there's there's nothing.
Dynasty, sure.
There's nothing, not even dynasty. There's nothing telling me like in dynasty. I mean, it's a 3-year outlook, right? Like, I don't know that I would put Devon A-Chain significantly ahead of DeAndre Swift in their current positions. And let's see where this has. Yeah, it has A-Chain in the same spot at 9 in the top 10. Like, I could easily see Swift having a better year than Devon A-Chain, you know?
Mhm.
So it'll be interesting to see where he falls when I kind of get closer to the season. These offenses get a little bit more hammered out post-draft and start, making some sense to my rankings. But I could see Swift all the way up in my top 10 for sure.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that fun conversation. Let's move on to the next one.
I had a little ADD moment when you were talking about in your confessional truck, and one other quarterback move was Sam Howell to the Seahawks.
Oh, of course, yes.
Which was funny because when you said last year that potentially this was one of your hot wild takes that Brissett could be the Geno Smith of last year.
Yeah,
well,
I did say that.
Geno Smith could be the Jacoby Brissett next year. So that could be
I see what you did there.
a truly full circle moment, which would be beautiful. I could see Sam Howell coming in and just being a gunslinger. That's like, we got these weapons on this offense. Let's get someone in there that's gonna, be exciting and just sling it. So I would love to see Howell take a step forward this year and have all of those potent weapons in that offense. And I could see him having some success. I mean, last year on the Redskins, he had Coach B, but there was some like 400-yard passing games.
Dude, 10 weeks in, he was leading the league in passing.
Yeah.
With the weapons he had for the Redskins, you know what I mean? Like, absolutely. Sub in DK Metcalf for Terry McLaurin as your wide receiver 1, like sub in Lockett and JSN instead of Dotson and Curtis Samuel,
and then a much better running game too. So it's
Walker and Charbonneau. So I think that was worth talking about. I think, I'd love to see him beat out Geno and get that QB1. So a lot to still play out here, right? So just thought it was noteworthy.
Yeah. What other running backs we got?
We were just talking about the Commanders. Ekeler to the Commies.
Yes, this is one I forgot about after it happened. It's just kind of got set back with all the other stuff that happened. But yeah, I think Ekeler still has some juice. Obviously last year was a down year, but he's getting older. But I do think he's still going to be a valuable running back. I'm not sure where he's probably going to get drafted in that round 3, round 4 range. I don't know if I'm willing to take a shot on him with that offense. They're probably going to draft a quarterback or trade back. We have yet to find that out. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm a little worried about the Commanders' offense as a whole, and I'll probably stand away from Ekeler.
Yeah, I mean, if it actually ends up being the 3rd or 4th round, he's very much on my do not draft list. I can't imagine he would be 3rd or 4th. Like, that's where we're saying Henry could potentially be, and that's before Swift. There's no fucking shot in hell that Ekeler has a better year than Swift unless Swift gets injured. Like, the role is just way less significant. You still have Brian Robinson there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to mention too. It's Brian Robinson is still there. Like,
yeah, so he's not even going to be a primary back in my mind. Robinson will have the early down work. They'll switch off drives, but like his role is going to be small. So third and fourth rounds, I don't think there's any chance he would be drafted there. It would be like a later. I mean, like
6, 7.
Yeah, like significantly lower. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see where he's going, but pretty much regardless, he'll be on the do not draft list, just like he was last year for me.
Yeah, I had him as an initial RB2 in PPR formats even. So that's round 5 for me, maybe, that I'm looking. And his receiving workload, that's been his bread and butter for PPR leagues, we could see that limited this year. If we're looking at a Jaden Daniels being drafted by them, coming in and picking, that's a guy who may be more prone to be taking off and running the ball, being a rookie quarterback, than doing those dump off passes to Ekeler, which he has thrived on.
Yeah, I mean,
great point.
How many times did he throw the ball to a running back last year at LSU? I don't know the numbers, but percentage of him, considering he had like 1,500 yards in the ground, maybe more. So, I don't know. Eckler's a bum at this point in his career. I want to take that back because he's big. Because he's big in the fantasy space, but he is a bum at this point in his career. He's just
So take it back, but
going
also
to a shitty team, and he's a shell of himself after injury.
Okay, all right, moving on. What do we got next?
Love you. Done a great career.
Good on you.
You just went to a team to go die. Antonio Gibson to the Patriots.
There's not much to talk about here. He's just going to be an auxiliary piece for this offense. Ramondre Stevens.
Was that yawn authentic or?
No, that was a yawn for.
That was an exaggerated, dramatic yawn.
Wow.
We're boring you, Shane.
That was a yawn for him.
Yeah, it's just kind of a mediocre signing. We're getting to that area of this list where I don't think it really is going to matter much for fantasy. Ramondre is the guy there. He's going to be the guy there this year, and Gibson's going to get worked in, but I don't think he'll be worked in enough to really be able to help your fantasy team.
Well, let's not say we're getting to that point of the list because there are some more exciting names here coming up. It's just the
I thought
right now.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I thought as we were going down, we hit Ekeler, and now we're talking Gibson.
I started to do that, and then I guess it just stopped. But
okay, fair enough.
Gibson to the Patriots. I honestly like this a little bit more for him. At least, he'll be behind Ramondre, but I think he'll be given somewhat of an opportunity. He'll have likely a rookie quarterback. I mean, if they trade for Fields, if they go Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3 and then trade for Fields, that may change, his opportunity a little bit. But as of where it stands right now, if they go like May and they're going to be running the ball a lot with Ramondre and he ends up getting 10, a little bit more of a workload than last year, there may be an opportunity. It's still not great, but for him to see the field more. But, I don't know. Just on a team that's not very good, sometimes you see these running backs who've had success before in the past, just by the fact that they're not really competitive and the ball needs to go somewhere, they end up having a decent fantasy season. So I could see him fall into that bucket, but, not much to talk about, like Chuck said.
Yep. Moving on.
Gus Bus to the Chargers. Just a lot of excitement there, guys.
Shane, if I could yawn right now, I would.
Shane, you go for it. I don't want to.
We all know what's coming, don't we? It's going to be Gus Edwards and Blake Corum, right?
Yeah, but even that's shitty. I can't believe that's what they're going to lean on. But whatever. I mean, yeah, that to me is a signing. That is just enter running back available here, and Harbaugh's going to go get his guy and give him an opportunity to be a big time NFL running back. And I guess this would be the year to do it as they're trying to figure out what to do around Herbert. So, I I think we can move on if you guys don't seem like
I'm good. Yeah, no, we can move on. It's a mediocre signing that is not going to affect any team in fantasy.
Singletary to the Giants for me is a downgrade given the offense he's going into from the Texans. So he had a great year last year. His opportunity will be the same, if not more, in terms of touches. But he's just on they were one of the worst lines last year on a really bad offense in a division where you have the Cowboys and the Eagles. So I don't know. I'm not going to touch him at all, but yeah,
it's a shame because I like him as a player. I think he's a great player. I think he's a talented running back, and I would have liked to see him go into a better situation, but this is not good for him. And I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I thought maybe, honestly, really, I thought there was a chance this is the guy that Dallas would have gone after on the cheap. He ended up getting, I think it was 3 for $16.5 million.
Isn't that too expensive for the Cowboys, though?
No, that's out of the price range. But the guy's productive, like 3 straight seasons of over 1,000 total yards. But Cole said it. This offense is going to be trash.
Yeah, to be fair, I wouldn't have wanted to sign him for that as a Cowboys fan. Yeah. Zack Moss to the Bengals. This is a guy the Cowboys potentially could have afforded. He steps into a pretty good role. It'll be him and Chase Brown there for the Bengals. He'll have an opportunity to kind of step in and be that Mixon. So if he can, continue building on that momentum that he had when Taylor was out, then there may be some value there for him. But, he's going to have the opportunity. He's got to run away with it.
Yeah, for me, this is one of those spots we talked about a lot last year during draft season. It's targeting those ambiguous backfields where you really don't know which way they're going to swing. I'd be fine taking a chance on Zack Moss. He looked really, really good last year, really efficient. The Bengals, I would imagine, I would project them to be really good this year as a bounce back year. So I'd be willing to take a shot on Zack Moss in the chance that he exceeds draft value where he's being drafted, depending on where that is. But I think Zack Moss would be good.
The thing is, he was really good behind an offensive line that is really good, and he's stepping into a team that had a bad offensive line, one of the worst, definitely the worst in their division. So they need to, improve in that area. But if he can be a good runner behind a probably mediocre line against really good defensive lines, it's just, we're going to see, like, he's going to have an opportunity. Let's put it that way. It's one of the better landing spots, at least opportunity wise, that he could have asked for. Not as good as Shane's Cowboys, but
Yeah. I mean, just looking back on Mixon's production last year, like, that shows me that Zack Moss has potential to, not get to those numbers, because I think Joe Mixon had the job to himself last year while Chase Brown was really kind of learning the scheme and everything. But I do think there's an opportunity there for Moss. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah. If I was a Bengals fan, my hope would be, though, that they would start to work in Chase Brown more than they did last year, because he has just got so much explosive ability. He showed in a limited amount. Even when his last year in college at Illinois, he had 20 touches in every single game. So it's not like he was this guy who couldn't handle workload. If I'm a Bengals fan, I'd like to see a 50-50 split there.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. That'll be, one of those big swing type. He's either going to exceed value or he's going to, not be a starting running back by the end of the year. Mm-hmm. But Tony Pollard to the Titans. Shane O'Mac.
Yeah, so I knew he was going to be gone for sure. I did not. I mean, this makes sense from a team perspective and fit wise. This is probably one of the best fits for Tony Pollard, because as we saw last year, like, Pollard's not built and meant to have a full workload as an RB1. So now he comes in a situation where he can work in tandem with Tyjae Spears. And Spears also is not the type of guy who can handle a full workload also. So I think it's a 60-40 split in favor of Pollard, but it's going to be close to even,
Yeah, for me, I would have liked to see the Titans go with a different archetype of running back. I just don't think he complements Spears very well, or they don't complement each other is a better way to put it. So I'm curious to see how it all plans out, but I don't know. I'm probably not going to be in on Pollard this year. Titans are still have a lot of room to improve. So they're making moves, though. That's good to see. But, yeah, I don't think I'll be interested in Pollard this year.
Yeah, Trucks stole everything I was going to say. They're making moves. They really are. We'll talk about Calvin Ridley next when we move into wide receivers, but they even just signed Cushenberry. They're making moves to try to not fall too far behind of Stroud and the Jags, who are also making moves. But I just think that he's too similar of a back than Spears, so they're going to be running out that not power back, dynamic kind of big play type running back just the entire time, which to me probably doesn't work, but we'll see. They're making moves.
Yeah, but maybe that's the new coach and offensive system they're putting in place. They're wanting to transition to that and from what they were running, bring it from Cincinnati.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be exciting to see how that team either falls flat on their face or looks a lot better than last year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Wide receivers. We're good at running backs. We'll move on to wide receivers. I just mentioned Calvin Ridley to the Titans. Big money for Ridley.
Big money.
So,
yeah. What's his agent Mulugeta? That guy is. Are you okay with their calls?
I'm putting my light back on for Shane.
Okay. All right. And give it start the clock, Shane. About 12 minutes from now, that light will be falling back. And
I want Shane O'Mac to be able to just see me for the second half of the episode.
World of
there
difference.
you go. All right. Yeah. So Calvin Ridley, I do think this helps this offense tremendously. The combination of DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley is a pretty good duo. And I think it really will help Will Levis, take that next step. And they're providing him the tools that he needs to succeed in the NFL. So we'll see if it works. My hopes aren't too high for the Titans as a whole this next season. So Shane, what do you got?
I love the move for the Titans because, like you said, at this point, if you're going to push all your chips in on Levis, you got to surround him with what all you can offensively. So it's a perfect mood for him. Ridley's kind of like a 1A, great route runner, can line him up in any spot. I hate it from a fantasy value, though, for Ridley, just because I'm not as bullish on Will Levis. So I don't like it as for his fantasy value. I'll be ticking him down a little bit.
Great point. I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge believer in the Titans, but they're trying to make moves and they're putting pieces in front of Levis to figure out, is this our franchise guy? Callahan's had a lot of success in developing quarterbacks. So, they have the pieces in place to try to make moves. It wouldn't surprise me if this is a team that, late in the season is a win or two away from winning the division, just because there are actual weapons there. Now, do I think they're going to succeed? My answer is no, but they're not super far off just by how many people they're bringing in, and they're going for it, which I respect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, Keenan Allen to the Bears. That happened last night. Literally, I was about to get into bed, and that news came through, and I'm like, gosh, it probably lost me an hour of sleep. But
I didn't sleep at all last night. Keenan freaking Allen is on a team that the world knows as the Bears. It happened, dude. Keenan Allen's been on the Chargers since they were in San Diego. He was on the San Diego Chargers for 4 years. This guy I thought would be a Chargers lifer. They cut Mike Williams. To me, that made it seem like, oh, okay, well, Keenan's going to stay on the team. I didn't think he was obtainable. And the Bears go out and pull off a sick deal, sending a 4th rounder to the Chargers for Keenan Allen. And now we have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. I'm going to say right now, the best wide receiver duo in the NFL.
No.
I couldn't be more excited. Yeah, yes, it is. Regardless of what you say, you can't convince me otherwise. They are the best duo in the NFL. Higgins is out from the Bengals. Probably he requested a trade. Jalen Waddle had a down year last year. Yes, they are. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, both wide receiver ones on the same team. Lock it in. Best duo in the NFL.
Overreaction by a biased fan of the team.
No, not at all. Not at all. You're totally wrong there.
Yeah. He's 32. He's going to be 32 by the time they start playing football. He's gotten quite a few injuries in his career. Nagging hamstring to be more specific, but it's a good signing. He had a good year last year. I think, they're going to have him for 1 year and then figure out, are we good?
Yep.
Yeah.
And figure out what kind of deal that they want to do moving forward with them. I just hope it doesn't mean that they miss out on one of these wide receivers in the first round. Overall, I would say that was a good deal and they should have done it. But I would be worried about his age, is in him being injury prone. And, I just want to make sure they have a young weapon to develop with Caleb along his career, someone like a Neighbors or a Dunze that they can pair with him that will be Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase-esque. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking for who the Giants draft. As soon as the Giants make their pick, that will determine whether or not we'd be able to get Neighbors or Odunze. And I do hope they invest in a younger receiver because you're right. Keenan Allen is getting older, but I still think he has enough juice in him for a couple of years on the Bears. So I'm not too worried about him declining right away.
Yeah, let's put it this way. Let's say they miss out on one of those guys now because Chargers for sure go Neighbors, miss out on Odunze, or the Bears just feel like they don't need to waste that draft pick on one of those guys, and then they decide to go one of their next picks on a wide receiver and end up with, I don't know, whoever, Roman Wilson, for example. I do like Roman Wilson a lot, but let's say Keenan Allen, has a groin injury or a hamstring injury that we've seen in the past. And then now you got DJ Moore, Tyler Scott, and Roman Wilson. I'm not as impressed. So, I would be excited for a Keenan Allen signing. But I just think it's not given his age and injury history. I don't think it's we're out of the woods.
The injury history, to my knowledge, he had a string of seasons where he played. I think he only missed one game each season since 2017. Just this last season or the year before where he dealt with that injury. But other than that, the guy's been pretty consistently healthy. So I wouldn't call him injury prone. He's dealt with some recent injuries, one being the hamstring. But if you pull up his since 2016 or 2017, the guy's been pretty consistently on the field for the Chargers.
Yeah, he missed, I think, the last 5 games this year. I think the value is
played 13 games this year, played 10 the previous year, all 16 and 21, played 13 games the year before that, full season the year before that. So it's every other season and the last 2. But,
yeah. So I think let's just say he gets hurt in week 12 and he's lost he doesn't play another game, but there is value for him being on the field playing in that early development with Caleb Williams, the first 12 games of the year for a 4th round pick. 4th round pick could be
all day.
Yeah.
Tight end bust they draft. So
yeah, I agree. It's just, again, my point is they need to still figure out who that third option is going to be, and it needs to be someone that can step in and be the second option given his injury history and his age. So
yeah, I hope they draft a young receiver that can fill that role that you just described.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens there. Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs. I love that for the Chiefs and
Dude.
him.
Yeah, 100%. That's Hollywood Brown is going to, in my opinion, I think he will be the wide receiver 1 on the team ahead of Rashee Rice.
What?
I do. I don't think Rashee Rice is going to be commanding as many targets as Hollywood Brown is. I think Rashee Rice is great, but their lack of wide receivers last year really elevated Rashee Rice. I personally think Hollywood Brown has more experience in the NFL. He's been in the longer, and I think he could be the better receiver than Rashee Rice. It's maybe a hot take, but I think Hollywood Brown, by the end of the season, is wide receiver 1 on that team.
This is Shane. This is where you get him in his take and say, like, all right, let's make a bet. These are the things that you jump on the hype.
Go ahead. I'll take that bet by the end of the year.
Then he doubles down.
By the end of the year.
His confidence.
Shane, by the end of the year, Hollywood Brown. I'm telling you, man.
Let me teach you. This is where you jump on it, Shane. So
I can just picture this next year. Fantasy confessions talking about. I had Rashee Rice as wide receiver 2. No, but I do. I think this is potentially a spot for him to really excel in this offense. And he commands a lot of targets. He gets open. He's really good at separation. We saw him have games of 10 plus receptions multiple times in the NFL so far. I like Hollywood Brown on the Chiefs.
Shane, so this is also where I would, in the conversation, try to get him to say that, double down and say that he's gonna outproduce Tyreek Hill in his best season as a Chief.
I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna go that far. I'm not completely out of my mind, but I have aspirations and I see a lot of potential for Hollywood in this offense.
Yeah, I like him a lot here. I think he's perfect. I think that was like I don't know if it was on air in the past or offline. I've discussed like Hollywood to the Chiefs would be perfect for where he's at in his career and for what they need. So that's gonna be really good for that Chiefs offense. You're gonna have him and Rashee, Kelsey there. It looks like they're going to re-sign Snead.
Probably draft a guy too. Draft a wide receiver.
Potentially. I don't know that they'll go first round capital anymore like they were intending on, probably, but
like they have been the last 3 years.
And they may, because the Hollywood's just a rental. He's going to have an outstanding season, and then he's going to do what Hollywood does and go get paid somewhere. But
yeah,
probably by the Panthers. But no, I think it's a really good signing for the Chiefs and for Hollywood Brown. So I'm excited. I think, I'll be looking at him in best ball. He's probably not going to have much value, but if he ever falls, pairing him up with Mahomes will be a pretty good best ball 1-2 punch.
I think this is. If I was going into the season, I would call this a win for Rashee Rice, because I was more worried about them bringing in a Mike Evans or somebody else that was a more legit guy. I mean, Hollywood is – we just talked about Keenan Allen, but Hollywood's missed some games the last couple of years. I don't know. He's – I think his biggest concern is who is he going to be gaming with in Kansas City and getting on and playing with online games with more than anything else on the field. So I'm not concerned at all. I will take any bet that for sure Rashee Rice is going to outproduce Hollywood Brown.
Let's lock it in. What kind of pod is this? Our first pod bet of the year?
This is the first.
I think it is. Yeah.
The year.
Right. I'm gonna take notes of all these this year. So locking in Shane O'Mac, he has Rashee Rice. Truck has Hollywood Brown.
Yep. And then at the end of the year, once what obviously has happened, Rashee Rice does outproduce Hollywood Brown in fantasy. Truck then for the next 3 shows after the season, we'll have to have a full Cowboys backdrop for shows.
Okay.
The off chance that it doesn't, I'll put Bear stuff in my backdrop for 3 shows.
Okay, I'll send you some stuff preemptively. So get you all geared up, ready to go for that one.
I love it. All right. That first pod bet is in. Lock it in.
Okay.
Love that. All right. So next up, Gabe Davis to the Jags. I don't want to talk about it, but you guys can.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about it, right? Because Calvin Ridley's out. Gabe Davis, Zay Jones. Like, what are the options here for the Jaguars? Like, Gabe Davis is going to be a factor in this offense. I don't know. This is a mediocre signing. It doesn't really do much for me for their team. It's definitely a massive downgrade at the position, unless they bring in someone else that we just haven't heard about yet, or draft a big time guy if they trade up. But I think with the setting right now, if they draft a later round rookie and they don't bring anyone else, Gabe Davis could have a large workload. I just don't know what he'll do with it,
Yeah, I think it depends. Like, there's rumblings they may release Zay Jones, and if they do release Zay Jones, then maybe that Gabe Davis is, a later round 3-4 receiver. But if Zay Jones is still there, now you're looking at Christian Kirk as the number 1 target, Evan Ingram as the number 2, ETN maybe 3, or so now you're looking at Gabe Davis as like the 4th target if Zay Jones is still there and on the field.
Yeah, I got nothing for you guys. So
Okay, great, riveting.
Darnell Mooney to the Falcons.
Let's go to our Darnell Mooney super fan truck. Yeah.
Here's the deal. Darnell Mooney. I did once believe he was a great athlete, and he's a good athlete. I just wouldn't say he's a great wide receiver. Adding weapons to this offense, I think, is good for Kirk. They grabbed also Rondell Moore. I'm sure we might as well just combo these in together in the same conversation, Darnell Mooney and Rondell Moore, to beef up this wide receiver room. And Rondell is more of a playmaker to me than Darnell, but Darnell is going to get some targets. He's going to grab some balls, but I don't see this matter. He's going to grab some balls, Okay. It's not really going to affect any of my fantasy teams. I don't think it's going to affect anybody else's,
Clip that.
That. He's going to grab some balls.
We have a new tagline for Truck. He's going to grab some balls.
Yeah, he's just going to, time to time.
Yeah.
Am I there? You're
still there.
Yeah, he'll be open from time to time. He'll grab some balls.
Grab some balls.
Maybe score, 2 treat touchdowns, but that's about
grab a ball or 2. Yep.
So basically what Mooney is what KJ Osborne was last year with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of
better.
what I'm envisioning. Yeah, I think I'm going to say Rondell Moore will outproduce Darnell Mooney. Shane, you want to take me up on that one?
No, I'm not going to.
Okay, all right.
Two trashy guys.
Yeah, all right.
I'm contemplating doing that. I like Rondell Moore. I really do like Rondell Moore. I like both of them. Like, I will definitely be targeting both of them in best ball.
That's really good.
I think that they're both going to have great games. I wish it had Rondell Moore not got signed there, I would have been a lot higher on Mooney than I think most people, just because of like, this is the best quarterback he's ever played with. Now there was a lot of drops, but some of that could just be frustration with his current situation. So he's going to be on a team where everyone's going to be getting fed. So if he kind of plays his best, I could see him having a really good season. But bringing in Rondell Moore, that takes away from him. So I'd probably lean to best ball for both of those guys. So that'll be someone to pair with Kirk on stacks there to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Curtis Samuel to the Bills.
Oh, I was hoping Curtis Samuel came to the Bears, but we got Keenan Allen, so I'm okay. Anyway, Curtis Samuel to the Bills, I think, is a great move. I think it provides a pretty consistent, someone that you can rely on in Curtis Samuel, and I think he, could be a step up from Shakir last year, and he's going to be involved quite a bit. Probably see 5 or 6 targets a game, and what he'll do with them. Just, he's not going to wow anybody. I don't think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this is a weird signing for the Bills, just because I thought Shakir was like moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And the Bills don't have a ton of money to spend, but they need weapons for Josh Allen. So here's another guy that I'm always a Josh Allen guy. I'll always be looking at him. So this is another person to stack him with in best ball. And I do think he's going to have a good year. So it's just Bills offense. It's never super consistent. I think Samuel's going to have some great games, and he's going to have some games where you don't see much of him. So, that's becomes frustrating in redraft leagues, but for best ball, I certainly think he's, worth an ad.
Yeah, I agree. It was an odd signing. He feels a lot like Shakir. I mean, as the same similar type of player. And so, Diggs is your number 1 target. Dalton Kincaid's your number 2. So I'm not too excited, even on the Josh Allen offense, about the number 3 target.
But I mean, I would disagree with that, in that like we've seen that player have really good seasons and games. Remember when Beasley like came out of nowhere and people were like adding him
7
like
for 75 randomly?
Yeah,
he was involved.
So like, I don't think he's going to be that guy, because Kincaid is going to take a lot more of those like sure-handed type catches, but like Curtis Samuel could definitely be a way better version of Beasley than that. So I don't know. I agree, but I also think like that's why I'm saying best ball, is because it's not going to be consistent, but he's going to have games that are outstanding and catch a touchdown and have that 775 and a touchdown. So
yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb, Mike, and say a lot of our best ball teams are going to have Curtis Samuel on them, because a lot of our best ball teams are going to have Josh Allen.
Allen. Yep.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel, we get that stack later on in drafts, is probably something we're going to be looking at quite a bit.
Yeah, and Shakir, honestly, like
but
yeah, that kind of rounds out the wide receivers, I think. And we don't have to spend too much time on tight ends, but Noah Fant re-signs to the Seahawks.
Noah Fant. What's the font size on that name, huh? Noah Fant.
Mike Gesicki to the Bengals, and Gerald Everett to the Bears.
Yeah,
talk about your bear down.
Gerald Everett. Right away, I'm thinking like, all right, why did we bring this guy in? But to be fair, Robert Tonyan was god awful last year. He was dropping some wide open balls from Justin Fields, and I think Gerald Everett is good enough to be a good number 2 tight end on this team. Cole Kmet is going to be heavily involved, but Gerald Everett, when we need it, when we're throwing it to him, he's probably going to catch the ball. He's got good hands. He's a great route runner, and I like the signing after I got to sit on it for a while.
Yeah, he's also got experience with Waldron at both the Rams and the Seahawks. So Waldron's going to know how to use him and use him effectively. He's one of the better yak tight ends. I think it probably hurts Kmet's value in fantasy. I probably won't be on either Bear tight end because of it, because I think he'll be used a lot more than you think. So
I could see Everett being very active in the red zone as well. He's that type of target. So I completely agree with you. It definitely it downgrades Kmet.
Yeah, it's just one of those moves. Good for football, bad for fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got?
I tell you what, out of those guys you mentioned, the one I'm kind of leaning towards excitement wise,
Mike Gesicki.
And Mike Gesicki.
Mike Gesicki.
Mike Gesicki. You know why? Because
Mike Gesicki. Okay. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, though. You're absolutely right.
I mean, listen, he was one of the highest played tight ends in the slot position. They've lost Tyler Boyd this year, so he's going to probably play a lot out of that slot position. He's always been a person target in the red zone. I think there's some sneaky, like you wait on to tight end to the last couple rounds, And if you take him, there's probably more upside with him than a guy like even Noah Fant.
Yeah, 100%. This is yet another year where we're saying, hey, the Bengals tight end might actually be good. You never know. But yeah, I think later on in drafts, he's someone that if you completely wait on that position, taking a chance on someone like that, he could provide some value for you. I agree.
Yeah, Mike Ziggy.
Amazing.
What are you guys doing? What is that? What are you doing?
Get used to it because you're going to hear it a lot this off season.
Okay, I just don't know where it's coming from.
It's gonna be a lot of Mike Ziggy in best
Mike
balls.
Ziggy. Yeah,
okay, fair enough.
Mike Ziggy.
Fair enough.
All right, sign us out.
Is that it? That's all. That's it.
That was Mike Ziggy.
Okay, what guys? I couldn't be more happy with the way that this free agency had panned out. I was a little skeptical going into it. Like I mentioned on that free agency prediction that most of these guys are going to end up in their original places, and
Yeah,
boy,
you
was I wrong.
You did.
Boy, was I wrong. I'm just saying that right now. I am excited for this NFL season, and this couldn't have gone better in my opinion. The Bears look absolutely dominant and should win the division, but we'll save that for another episode. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Go check us out on Twitter. Check us out on all social media at Fantasy Roadshow. We appreciate you guys are the best roadies out there. And most importantly, buckle up.
Buckle up.